guys, it's Erica here. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. This is my channel called Erica's Diary, where I'm going to be just talking to you about my experiences, things that I have gone through, my testimonies, my healing journey, in hopes that it resonates with you out there. I look at y'all like my friends. You know, this is therapy for me. And just obviously just chilling in my room and just talking to you guys. So as you can see in the title of this video, The Case of the Exes, and I came up with this title because I really liked that song back in the 90s by Maya called Case of the Ex, but that actually has nothing to do with the actual content of this video, but I thought it was a creative title. So I do want to express to you guys or talk to you guys about the exes that I've had in my past, bringing it all the way back to the teenage years, because I realized I've gotten a lot of like feedback and interest from like the videos that I talk about love, relationships, situationships, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I could tell you about other relationships and things that I've gone through. But on a serious note, after I tell you all of this, it's really my reflection on like, why did I put up with this kind of stuff? Like, I've been through some BS, and I have to say BS because my mom and her friends watch this sometimes, and I don't want them to talk about me at the cookouts. So, sorry. So I just really don't even know how I still have, you know, the desire to love somebody, be in love, have the capacity to love people. Like, when I tell you these stories, you guys, you're gonna be like, girl, you've been through a lot. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, I'm gonna take you guys all the way back to my senior year in high school. Okay, my mom actually brought this dude up the other day because she was like, he was just so cute. I'm like, Ma, I was 17. I mean, I don't even know how that came to be about. Actually, one of my friends back then, she was dating his twin brother. So we thought, you know, and he went to a different high school. So like, it was like our rival high school. So we thought, you know, oh, we got the twins at the rival high school. You don't know nothing in high school. But he was really cute. But it was my senior year. I was 17 years old. It was time for prom, and I broke up with him. I ended up going to prom by myself, all alone. Ain't much changed today because I'm still by myself, all alone. But the reason why, because when my mom brought him up the other day, she was like, dang, you got rid of him quick. But the thing was, like, we dated, I want to say maybe a year, and then here comes prom, and he tells me that he doesn't want to go to prom, and I'm like, you don't want to go to my prom? Like, what do you mean? Like, in high school, that's like this huge thing, you know, like, oh, I want to go to prom. But really, like, it's really not that big of a deal. But, well, it wasn't in my case. So I went by myself. I actually went with two of my other really good friends at the time, and only one of them had a date. So it was like just all of us. I remember, instead of going to a dinner, everyone came to my mom's house. My mom fried the best chicken wings. If my mama can't do nothing else, she can fry some chicken wings. Ask any of my friends that's ever had her cooking. And then, you know, my dad, like, he, you know, washed his car and gassed it up and drove us to the prom. And so it was very chill. It was so us as our little group of friends. But back to the guy I was dating at the other school, he was of a different culture. It was Eritrean, which is in Africa, and his parents were straight up from there. And in their culture, they want you to be dating someone, if they even do allow you to date someone that is of that culture. So they didn't approve of him dating me. So that's why he was like, I'm not going. And he actually couldn't go because they would not have ever approved it. They wouldn't have bought him no tux, nothing. So I broke up with him. And I just remember doing it on the house phone. Like, I was like, okay, bye. Then we can't be together. Bye. And I was just very cold about it. So that was probably, I think he was like my only boyfriend I had in high school, I feel like. And if there was somebody else, my bad, I don't remember. Oh, but I did have a boyfriend after that. When I went off to school, I remember he was a year behind, or a year younger than me. So he was still a senior in high school, and it was time for me to go off to college, and we were friends, but he was just like wanting to like be together or whatever. And I don't really remember the details. I just remember me telling him, hey, don't follow me to school. And what did he do, you guys? He followed me to school. Like, he got into the same school that I was at. And it just didn't work out. Like, I honestly, to this day, I really believe that he really, really did care about me. But I'm like, we were young and dumb, and it just didn't work out. I feel like at the time, he wasn't obviously used to anyone like me. And when I say that, I mean, when I was growing up with my dad, he used to take me out on like daddy-daughter dates, because he would show me how a guy is supposed to treat you. They're supposed to be chivalrous. They're supposed to be polite. They're supposed to open the door for you. They're supposed to, walk on the outside of the street so you can be on like those kind of things I was used to, and I wasn't getting that from him. And so when I would basically tell him or show him how I wanted to be treated, it was always an argument. And so we just broke up, and then he went back he left the school and went back home. And I remember what happened with him? Oh, he ended up getting with somebody else, and I think he's married to her now and has kids with her. And that's another thing, like, these people that I'm about to tell you about, they all have moved on, got married, and have children, and I just over here like, okay, cool. But so cut to when I turned 19. Y'all, this was my first real heartbreak, and I'm gonna try to keep this story as short as possible because it's so much, but I'm gonna give you the meat of it. So at 19 in college, I started dating this guy. We'll call him Mel, okay? And he was like so dope. Like, the way that we would get along with each other, just laughing, joking. His personality was bomb. He was, athletic. He was, popular. But he went to play football in college, so we were long distance. Now, he already was from North Carolina, which is where my family's from. And so we had always known of each other. And, even like way back when we were like toddlers, we was in the same school. Like, we knew of each other. Our families knew of each other. So it just kind of flowed into like, hey, I like you. You like me. Okay, let's do this. So I remember I just loved the way he treated me at first. Don't we all? At first. So he actually like had a nickname for me. And I'm telling you, like, I'm 19 right now. Okay, so I used to think that was the cutest thing. I was like, oh, his nickname for me was Tootie. And I thought that was so, I'm like, oh, he calls me Tootie. He would call me every day. He'd be like, hey, Tootie, I got football practice. He was like, I'm gonna send you some stuff so you can start wearing like my football gear, like my football team name on your sweatshirts and sweatpants. Like, he was just obsessed with me, and I was obsessed with him at first. So we just had a really cool relationship. So come to fall break at my school, he was like, hey, I'm planning to come down to spend my fall break with you. And we didn't have fall break at the same time, but he just spent his week with me, basically. So I was so excited, cut to before fall break, I had actually was in North Carolina and we hung out, and he actually gave me a gift. And it was my first, like, from a guy, a first piece of real jewelry. He went to Jared's Jewelers and got me this little teardrop necklace with a matching ring. And he said it was a promise ring to me. Y'all, again, 19-year-old mind. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is my husband. We are getting married, okay? He gave me a promise ring and everything. And I remember when he gave that to me, he was like, now I know this is just a little something. He was like, but you know, in 6 months we can go back and like you could get something bigger, something else that you would want, you know, just letting me know that. He was like, or maybe I could just get that for you for Christmas or something like that. And I just loved it because I thought it was just so thoughtful. And so he gave me, like, you know, the little paper that you would get for like trading or insurance on the jewelry. So I was just thinking, this is so official, like we really about to do this. I found the one. So there's a point to me saying all of that I just said, so keep that noted. So when he gets here for fall break, I noticed it was just such a different vibe and such a different energy. His energy was so distant. His energy was so kind of mean. Like he was just like irritated at everything that I said to him. And I was like, I don't get it. Like he barely, you know, he wasn't affectionate with me. He barely talked to me. And I was like, what is wrong? I was like, why would you come down here and then act like this? Like he was just being so rude. And of course, me having the mouth that I have, I asked him like, oh, what's your problem? You got something to say? And like, but he was like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay. So in my woman instinct way back at 19 years old, I was like, something ain't right. Because why are you acting different with me? There's no way that I could have done anything to you for you to act like this towards me. So I left it alone. He was like, before he left, he was like, hey, next time I'm gonna see you, it's probably on our winter break. So I'm gonna go ahead and trade that jewelry in for you, like we had already discussed. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So I'm dropping him off at the airport. We say our goodbyes. You guys, I couldn't even get back on the highway to head back to my apartment before I get a text message from him on my little flip phone. I had like this little pink Razor flip phone, and it said, I can't do this anymore with you. I'm just not happy. What? First of all, you was here a whole week in my face. You didn't say none of that. But as soon as you get on a plane where you have to put your phone on airplane mode, then you want to send me that message that I can't call you. The calls ain't going through. The text messages aren't going through. I was like, wow. And I remember just pulling my car over and just crying. I was so like, what? That was I still remember how I felt back then and at that moment. And this was at the time where I was gearing up to like start back my architecture classes. And I remember we had to go buy some supplies from Lowe's. We had to get these big old 2x4s and all that. So I had a partner, and she was supposed to meet me at my apartment. I remember calling her. I was like, hey, I know we're supposed to start this project, but I just can't meet you today. Like, I'm just not good. And I got home, and I was like still calling him, still texting him, still nothing. And I was like, I'm sure he has landed by now. Still calling, still texting, nothing. So I called his mama because she really liked me. She really did. And so I called her, and I was like, do you know what's going on with your son? Like, when you know you in there when you can call his mama and discuss his behavior. Like, so I called her, and she was just like, I haven't talked to him since he left. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. But she knows her son. So weeks go by, I don't hear anything from him, and it is torturous. I am distraught. I am so confused. I am looking up, on Facebook, because at the time that's really all that we had to use, really, was Facebook. And that's when you had to have a college email to even use it. So I'm looking up his sisters and like trying to find clues and pictures. And so I saw this one picture on one of his sister's Facebook pages, and it was just a picture of her and a girl. And instantly my throat like felt like it sank into my stomach. And I don't know why, because it was nothing to that picture. But I was like, who is this girl that you're just hanging out with at your brother's school? So it's crazy how I didn't know, but I kind of already knew. Like my spirit, my gut was already kind of trying to tell me something. But I still didn't know what was really going on. So weeks go by. Then all of a sudden I'm in the hallway talking to my roommate and telling her about this story, really, and he calls my phone. And I was like, should I answer it? She was like, girl, yes. And I was like, no, I'm not going to answer it, because I sat up here and I called him for weeks and he never responded. I'm not answering it. Don't answer. Calls again. Don't answer. Calls a third time. I end up answering. And when I answered the phone, he just sounded so distraught. Like I immediately thought something happened to his mama, his sisters, or his daddy. Like it sounded like somebody had died, and I thought that it was something wrong. Like I don't know why I'm like that. As soon like it was like I wasn't even thinking about myself no more. I was like, what is it? What's wrong? What happened? And I'm like, why am I like that? Like he did me wrong. I shouldn't be concerned about is something going on. So his voice was shaky. He was very like it was just, I can't even describe it. It was just very weird. And he ends up telling me the entire story of, in a nutshell, he met this girl, this freshman at his school, and he got her pregnant, and she is pregnant with twins. What? I'm sorry, what? I didn't even know how to receive that information. And like I said, the kind of heart that I have, like it was all, I feel like he was crying. That's what I felt like he was crying before he called and told me. He was so nervous. Like I could feel the nervousness, and I didn't say anything. I didn't even know what to say. Like, what do you say to that? Like, congratulations? Like, what do you say? And so I was just so hurt and confused. He was like, I'm sorry that I, was ignoring you. He's like, I just didn't know how to say this to you. But it was something that just kept haunting me. And I felt like if I didn't tell you, like, it was just going to keep haunting me. And he was like, I haven't even told my mom. I haven't told my dad. None of my sisters know. It's just this girl now all of a sudden telling me she's pregnant with twins. Okay, cool. And so immediately, because I have known him for like at this point so many years, and we were friends that fell into like with each other, and then he did something dumb. So I remember just telling him, I'm like, okay, well, I'm here for you. And I'm like, when I think about it, I'm like, why did you tell him you here for him? Why? Was that like genuine or what? But it was genuine. And I was like, why am I telling this man that I'm here for him, knowing that I'm hurting? It's like, why do I put people's feelings in? Because I remember specifically telling him, I was like, you need to tell your mother. And I said, you do not know what you just got yourself into. Because at that moment, it wasn't even about me anymore. It was like I was like concerned about him. And I was like, why? This man lied, he deceived you. He obviously out here just doing whatever with whoever. And you over here talking about you gonna be there for him? What you gonna do, be the auntie to the kids? Like, hello? So, but I think I just wasn't ready to receive it. I wasn't ready to let it go. Like, I was like, this was my boyfriend. Like, I'm not ready to let it go. That's my other issue too. Like, I just be not ready to let certain things go. And so I didn't honestly think that he was going to take me up on the offer of me saying, I'll actually be here for you. So a couple of days go by and he just starts texting me like normal, starts calling me again like normal. And, you know, we're just talking and he literally says, yeah, she just came back from the doctor's office and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, did you go to the doctor's office with her? And he was like, no, she just called me to tell me how it went. And I was like, okay. And in my gut, I'm like, something ain't right about that, but whatever, it ain't my business. But he literally was calling me and telling me all this stuff and then telling me about school and football. Like if this just wasn't anything, like this whole thing didn't just destroy my world. So, I remember just texting him one day and I get a text back. But I could tell it wasn't him because I could tell, I know how he texts. You know what I mean? You know, you usually get used to how one of your close friends or boyfriend, whoever texts, right? So I read a text. I'm like, this is not how he texts. So I immediately thought someone was playing in his phone. So I didn't respond to the text. I get a phone call. I didn't answer because it happened like right after that. So then they call again and it's from his phone. I answer it and it was the girl. The first thing she says is, who is this? The number's not saved. I'm like, I said, you called my phone. You called me. And she was like, well, you're texting this phone and I just need to know who this is. And I'm like, I said, you need to ask Mel. That's what you can do. And I hung up. So then I get more text messages and I can tell that it's from him because he was like, Erica, I'm so sorry that she called you. Like, I don't want you in the middle of this. I don't want you dealing with her. Like, I'm trying to get this under control. And he was like, I'm just really, really sorry. So then I get like 3 or 4 more phone calls. And on like the 4th one, I answered because at this time I was really about to just be like, just go off on both of them. But this time it's him and you can hear her in the background yelling at him. And he's telling me like, I need you to stop texting me. I need you to leave me alone because, you know, we're trying to work things out between us. It was almost like she was telling him, call her and tell her this, like that kind of thing. So then she takes the phone from him. Like you can hear them like scruffling and whatever. She takes the phone from him and I'm just so cool as a cucumber because I'm listening to her like, what? So she takes the phone and she was like, who are you to him? And I was like, we're friends. And she was like, I'm carrying his babies and I'm wearing his ring. I'm like, okay. Like she was real aggressive with it. So I was like, his ring? I was like, y'all get married? Y'all engaged? And she was like, I don't really remember what her response was, but I do remember saying, asking her what the ring looked like. She was describing it to me, and then I started describing it. And she was like, how would you know? And I was like, because that's my ring. I said, he gave that ring to me a long time ago, and he took it from me just recently, saying that he was going to trade it in. And she was like, you lying. She was like, why would I believe you? And I said, well, if you don't believe me, you can ask him for the papers that came along with that piece of jewelry. And I said, he can't give them to you because I have them. So at that moment, I realized he gave her the jewelry that he had gifted me. And I was like, wow, done. Like I should have been done then. Like I wasn't trying to be with him. Like I was still trying to keep this friendship in my life. For what? Erica. So eventually she started going crazy, started getting her friends to send me bullying messages on Facebook. It was just so immature. And I'm like, she was like, you know, I better not catch you out nowhere. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're in North Carolina. I'm in Texas. Like, and even if I wasn't, like, you're doing a lot of talking and I'm just here like, okay, girl, like whatever you want to do, girl. Like, I don't care. I'm like, you're the one in this predicament with him, not me. I'm the blessed one in this situation because I can walk away and I don't have to deal with him for the rest of my life because I'm tied to him. So, cut to, you know, the future. I get a Facebook message from him. This is maybe like 2 years later. And he apologized. I mean, he had already apologized when he initially called me to tell me what happened. But 2 years later, y'all, he sent me this long message on Facebook just saying how horrible he felt about what he did and how he treated me. And he was like, you don't deserve that. You were just too good for me. He was like, I always regret it, and just still feeling really bad years later. Come to find out, she did have she did deliver, but she only had one baby. There was never any twins. This wasn't like, oh, one twin didn't survive or anything like that. It was, she was never pregnant with twins. So this was a story that I speculate that she wasn't actually pregnant when she said she was. Thought that he was gonna be like this NFL star probably, and she messing with an older college football player. That's what the vibes I could get from her, and thought that she was gonna get a bag, and ended up actually lying about when she was actually pregnant. Because how you go from having 2 babies, you're telling me this around fall break, which is September, October. She delivered a baby in September of the next year. I don't know who is pregnant for about 12 months unless you're an elephant. I don't know. So she lied, because the story don't add up. And whether she lied or not, he still cheated, he still lied, he still deceived me. But fast forward, a few years later, he ends up marrying somebody that already had children, and then he had more children. So he just got a whole school bus of kids now. And I just think when I look back, even though I was very, very hurt by it, I still, in a way, always bring it back to God. I always feel like, he really did protect me in that moment. In that initial day when I dropped Mel off at the airport and I was devastated, I remember just going back to my apartment in my room. This was back in the day where you would always get those chain messages, those chain text messages. And I was just in my bathroom crying, on the floor crying. And I got this random text message from my brother, who, he don't text me all the time. And so for me to get a text that particular time, and it was one of them chain text messages, and it was like a whole affirmation and like a whole message from God that was just like, you deserve the best. You are beautiful. You are this. You are that. And I remember reading it and was just crying, because I felt like that wasn't coincidental that I got that message, because I literally needed to hear that at that specific time. So that was my 19-year-old story. In a nutshell. A lot more went on in between there, but that was basically it. So moving on to when I was like still in college, started dating this older dude. He was out of school. We just gonna call him Prince. And he definitely was not a prince. More like the frog. But he is why I am a little bit scarred on dating people that have a kid. Because he was just not honest about his situation. And basically, he had a daughter, but he just was back and forth with the daughter's mom. Basically, that's how that went. And I remember being so upset when I found out about it, because obviously he was not honest. And when I found out about it, I pulled up to his job at Nationwide Insurance because he wasn't answering my calls. And yeah, he didn't come outside, so I drove back home. But I was just that upset, and I was like, how are you letting this man upset you like this? And again, once I finally let that go, what'd he do? Try to come back. Try to add me on Facebook again. Try to follow me on Twitter again. And this was one of them situations where I had made a fake account to try to look and see what he was doing, knowing I already knew what he was doing, because if I have to even do all of that, I already know. And then, that was like around maybe 21, 22. No, I would say 21, 20, 21 maybe. And then 24 hit, and y'all all know about that story. If you don't, Go check out my God Why Me video. And that relationship lasted about 6 years. So those are my stories of like actual relationships with people. I didn't include, the little date nap stories or my most recent situationship story. But it's like, after all of that, I really think to myself, like, why do I still have the desire to love somebody or to be in love or to have a companion or to have, like, that's a lot of trust issues that has festered since 19 years old, actually 17. That's a lot of years of healing work that never even started really until probably more so recently now. You know what I'm saying? And so with my last relationships, they all have tried to come back at some point. And I'm like, no, because when I was there, I cared, and you didn't care enough to try to keep this thing going, to try to keep this thing together. And I'm at the point where I will not go back to any of them, because I've been there, I've done that, I've done the work for myself, and I'm just not in the same space I was when I was with them, any of them. So, and I see, hindsight 2020, I see that God was like, okay, this ain't it, let's go. This ain't it, you ain't really letting this go, so let me just make something happen so you can move on. That's what happens every time. And I need to learn to let it go before God makes me let it go. Because he be sending me the red flags and the signs. So I'm like, oh, it's not really red. It's like pinkish. Like, no, it's the red flag. Sis, leave. So I'm trying to take that into my next adventure. But I'm not interested in like frivolous dating next. Like I want my person. And with my last relationship, I just think that I don't talk to him, so I don't really know how he really feels right now. But I think that him and some of his family have like this hope of us maybe getting back together or being friends again or whatever. But honestly, I'm not going back, because it would be something for me as if I'm going back to what hurt me. I'm going back to what broke me. It took so much effort, you guys, to get out of that, to pull myself out of that, like, depression and sadness. Why would I go back to that? And because when you're healing and you're going through all of this, focusing on yourself and trying to rebuild yourself, it's really, really hard. But at the end of it or during it, you feel like a new person, and you literally are, because you're shedding this skin, you're shedding this dead weight, you're shedding the old you. So for me, it's like they may want, they may have hope for that, or he may have some hope for that, but not on my end, because I feel like, yeah, I may be great for him. They may look at me like, you are great for him. But I need for people to think about Erica. He's not great for me. He wasn't great for me. Like, and it's like, because of, regardless of what I think, what kind of person he is, because, obviously I don't think he's a bad person. He was like my best friend back then. And it's like, you still got to realize that the situation was the situation. And so it was rooted in deception. But the relationship between me and him, it was rooted in deception. So that causes me trust issues. He left because he had to. That causes what? Abandonment issues. So all of these different issues had come up. And it's like, for me to go back to that would be doing a disservice to myself, regardless of if he has changed and become this better person or whatever. That's great. Just because you change, you grow, you become a better person, it doesn't mean that you have to go back to the same thing that broke you. No matter how bad you think you wanted it, or how bad you feel like, we could have had that chance. Like, it's always up to you. But for me, I'm just not going to give any more time, more energy into a situation that I already gave so many years of my life to. And so going forward, I realized that I'm also not going to be giving all of those years to anyone. Like, you're going to have to come with some intention. You're going to have to come with you're going to have to come from God, first of all. Because I'm like, okay, God, obviously I'm not great at picking, obviously. Obviously my picker is off. So I'm going to rely on you to do that. So that is, in a nutshell, how I feel about the exes, the case of the exes. At the end of the day, it's all a blessing for me to be able to still, leave these relationships, still not be, broke down, toe down, woe down, even though those were those moments. But I'm able to like move forward, really find out who I am, what I want from a person, what I will and will no longer do. I know that I need to, like I said earlier, learn to let go earlier, so you won't have to go through stuff so drastically before you let it go. And I'm just at the point where I'm just trying to trust that God brings me the person that I'm actually supposed to be with. Because I feel like I've done the work, and I'm like joking with my friends, like, girl, I'm tired of focusing on myself, sis. I'm ready. But it's true. I've been focused on myself, so I need that person too, who has focused on themselves, who has done the work, who is, not dibbling and dabbling back into their ex's life, that actually believes that there's somebody for them, and, move forward in that way. But I feel like this is the only area in my life, guys, that has not prospered. So I'm just like, okay, God, is there something else I need to be doing or what? So I'm actually probably just gonna fast about that, because that's one thing I haven't really done, is just solely focus on that. So last thing I will say is there's a sermon by Pastor Michael Todd. If you know about him, he is awesome. If you don't, he is awesome. Look him up on YouTube. He's a pastor out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he did a sermon called "Let God Rewrite Your List." So you know how some women will have a list of everything that they want in a partner, or a list of how their life is gonna go. This is what I'm gonna do at 20. This is what I'm gonna do at 25. This is what I'm gonna do at 30. Girl, no, you're not. Your life is not your own. So let me tell you, God gonna do what He say you gonna do. Anyway, so on the sermon, he basically was saying, don't, despise your single season, or whatever season you're in, but, ask God what you're supposed to do, or what He wants from you in this season. So that's what I need to focus on, rather than, oh, I'm single, like, I've been through all of this, like, where's He at? Like, I gotta watch how I talk and think about situations or relationships, because I don't want that underlying like negativity to like spew out unbelief or doubt, because I have been very filled with unbelief and doubt, and you can see why. If you just look at everything that I actually endured over my lifetime, you'd be like, girl, I just give it up, hang it up. But anyways, that is my story, you guys. That is my case of the exes. If you can relate to me, let me know. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Comment, let me know what you think. And I will see you guys right here next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.